Hello and welcome to the 13th installment of Aaron Walker Art Talk. I am still Aaron Walker, and I am still talking to Hannah Frankman. Hannah, how
yes,
are you?
you are. I'm good. How are you?
And for this episode, we're talking about getting better. Hannah, do you want to talk about why you chose this one?
Yeah. So honestly, it was the eyes. They just jumped out at me when I was looking through the gallery pages. Like, you know, somebody who you just like happen to catch their gaze when you're in a crowd and you're just like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot there. It conveys so much emotion. This face is so intent and there's just so deep. There's so much there. I mean, if we want to be technical about it, like I love the color scheme too, but it was really the eyes.
I think that's pretty interesting because I think that eyes are the most humanizing aspect of like a subject, right? And so when I first started getting into painting, I have these like large cardboard pieces that I did. And one of them is of Zeus and one of them is of the main character in an Eraserhead, right? But I didn't like fill I know, eccentric, but I didn't fill
contrast a little bit.
A little bit. But I didn't fill out their eyes, right? And so everyone would come up and be like, do you just not like doing eyes? Are you not that good at them? Like, what's going on? And but the reason why is because I wanted to portray them as being like sort of inhuman, right? So like Zeus is above and beyond like the human sphere of being. And so I wanted to portray that, you know, in the actual painting.
Okay.
This one I really liked. Again, I actually really liked the eyes of the subject. Quick aside about the subject. So the way that I found this one was I was going through Tumblr, right? I was on the internet and I just saw this guy and I was like, you are beautiful. I must paint you, right? As you do. And then later I found out it was Zayn from One Direction.
That's amazing. I love the fact that you didn't know that too. Like,
well, I didn't. I thought he was just like some model.
How did you find that out? Like, did somebody recognize the painting or you saw another picture of like Zayn later and you're like, oh, okay, you're not who I thought you were.
Later, and I was like, I've seen you before somewhere. And then like I had to go back and like I reverse image searched my original picture and I like found it. I was like, cool. Here we are now.
I love the fact that you were so compelled by this picture, but then you saw another picture of the same man and you were like, I think I've seen you before. Like, I don't know who you are.
Right. Well, I think they like broke up or something. I think like there was some like falling out and I saw the dude's face again and I was like.
You were like, wait a minute. Yeah.
But I do think eyes are very humanizing.
They are.
And I really liked in the original reference picture, it's like super HD and it might have like an HDR like effect on it as well. But you can see like all of these details in like the beard and the eyes and the hair. And I thought that they would translate really well. And this is actually a case where I had a vision for the finished piece as I was creating it, right? Where I like each of the elements in the picture, I had them in my head when I was making it, you know, and that's not always the case.
Okay, so usually, so I understand what the process would look like if you see the picture in your head and you're working towards it. But if you don't see the picture in your head, how do you determine what it is that you're working towards?
So the process that I described in the previous episode of those two rules, right, of going dark to light and then going through the form, you see spaces where things are going to be. And in the moment, you have the ability to decide what it will be, right? And so if you do that as a spontaneous effort, it doesn't have to have like a centralized finished goal, right? A finished endpoint in mind.
So you purely determine your next steps based on where you see like something should be.
Yes. So like if it's just black, And we'll talk about this more, I think, in a later episode. But if you start with something like black, you know where the black should go. And after that, it's kind of like, well, I could start with this or that. And I don't know, you just let it take the form that it takes.
That's such an interesting, I don't want to say passive because you are like an active participant, but it's almost like taking a backseat in a creative process, which I guess sometimes creativity can be, but it's just an interesting way of articulating a creative process. So I want to know about the title. Who's getting better, you or him? Because he almost looks like it could be him.
I feel bad because this was like just a lazy titling, right? Because it was just like, I really love this painting, right? Like, in if I was to rank mine, I would put this in like top 5. Because
interesting.
I love the way it came out, and I like if I saw someone, I'll put it like this: when I look at other artists that are on like my level, let's say, so it's not necessarily professional, but it's like somewhere in like a high hobby area, let's say. The way I know if I like their art is if I say that's something that I could do, but it's like on my best day, right? That's the art that I like, is art that I would do if I was a little bit better. And so if I just saw this particular piece in the gallery, right, I would love it. But so yes, I really like this piece. But where it is in like the history of my artistic development is like a high point, I think, right? So like it has its peaks and its valleys, but this is one of the high points.
Interesting. And was it like a one piece high point, or were there other pieces that kind of happened in a series and then it kind of dipped?
This was like part of a short series. So like it's this and like the wolf, and I had one called Subcomandante Marcos, right? That I really liked as well. But each of them has like this green background. I think it's pretty distinct. Like you could, if you were to just look at them in my gallery, you'd be able to pick them out.
Okay. I got to go back and take a look and see if I can find them.
Well, I mean, all artists have like certain periods of work, right?
Right.
Picasso has like a blue period, and you know it, and how he would feel about that, and like in the hierarchy of his work, I don't think it's that uncommon of a thing among artists.
Mm-hmm. So, does this model in your picture is there the subject of your paint, I guess, but he stops being a model and he becomes, the image itself. What it's very distinctive. Like there's a lot of emotion there, but it's hard to pick out what exactly is going on. Like what is the story? Do you associate a story with it? And if so, what is it?
So like the alternative, I've named this like several things through the years, right? And like another name for it is stoic model, because it's just kind of like, it's straightforward. So we talk about like the humanizing influence of eyes, but in this particular piece, like more so than in most, the eyes are just saying straightforward, like as if you were in a conversation, or like you caught this person in a moment. As to, I don't think there's any sort of story to it, right? It's just kind of like this person in their state of being when the picture was taken.
Then how is there a way that you would articulate the person, like in terms of personality or character, or is it just like what you see is what you get? It doesn't matter if there's anything else there. All that matters is the experience you have looking at them.
I don't know. I think like the principle, when I look at it, the principle, I don't want to say emotion, but from like an existentialist sort of thing, it's just like, I'd be speaking too highly of myself if I said aesthetic bliss, right? But it's like just this like beauty, because I do, like when I say this guy is beautiful, I mean it, right? Like, and beauty, I guess, is what I was going for.
Okay. Well, obviously I found it compelling because I picked it, so.
Right. Well, okay, Hannah, if you don't have any more questions, I think that's pretty good for this episode.
I have more I want to ask you, but I want to save them for another painting.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you in the next episode, okay?
I will see you in the next episode.
Perfect.